everybody, and welcome to Nathan on Shuffle and to my latest episode of New Album Spotlight. This is the show where I put the spotlight on a new album in progressive rock that I think you guys will enjoy. I do this every Tuesday. It's a fun thing that I look forward to every week because I love listening to new music and I love sharing it with people, so this is always a blast and a joy. And I hope you guys will keep listening to this music. We'll give it a chance. We'll check it out. Listen to my description and then go off and find it in your own way, whatever platform you like to listen to music through, because this is all such great music and showcases that there's great music being made today just as well as was in the 70s and in earlier time periods. I think a lot of people get this perception that music today just isn't as good and there isn't anything great to listen to, but if you dig deep enough, you can find these hidden gems, and it's a lot of fun to uncover them and to share them with you guys. So today I have an album from United Progressive Fraternity. This is called Planetary Overload Part 2 Hope. So a long title and a long album, in fact. This is a big, sprawling project across 2 discs on a CD. You can 3 LPs, I'm sure. Really a big, expansive project that's about 2 hours long, all told. And so it's a lot to go through. It's a lot to really dig into, but there's so much great stuff if you take the time and really delve into all the music that's available here. So United Progressive Fraternity is a little bit of a background. It was one of the branches from Unitopia. Unitopia was an Australian prog band focused from 2 members, Mark Truiak and Sean Timms. They broke up and formed 2 different bands, essentially. United Progressive Fraternity is what Mark Truiak did, and Southern Empire is what Sean Timms did. Both incredible bands in their own right. Interestingly enough, they both have albums coming out right around the same time. Southern Empire's album is coming out soon, and I'll be doing a review of that shortly. And on top of that, Unitopia is reuniting and doing an album also that just came out. So you got all these albums from this family of artists, and it's kind of fun to compare and contrast and to be able to hear all of these and how they differ from one another. And it's a fun project, and I'm basically planning to cover one of each of these over the next few weeks, so I thought it would be fun to get into this one first, since this one came out first. I believe it came out in July, actually, so a little bit late to the party on this one, but it's taken some time to really get into and to really absorb because there's so much music here. United Progressive Fraternity is a lot about a message that they're trying to spread to the world, that we need to take care of our planet, that we need to show more love and respect for the planet that we live on and for the people that live on it as well. There's a lot of that environmentalist sort of message to this album, which gives it a focus and gives it a direction through the track listing that I think makes it feel cohesive and has this conceptual nature to it. And like I said, this is Planetary Overload Part 2, so basically it's a sequel to Part 1 that came out several years back, which was called Loss, which focused in the same direction, but this is trying to bring a bit of hope to the equation, trying to allow people to know that, hey, if you keep going on this, if you keep trying to improve things, there is hope that we can change the current direction that the world's heading in. I think that's the overwhelming message that they're trying to portray with this music. So, and to portray that message, they're doing a lot of world music type stuff in the sounds and soundscapes of the album. You hear a lot of different instruments that make you think of different cultures, different places in the world. You know, you hear a lot of flute, a lot of violin, a lot of horns. You know, you hear a lot of these different instruments from like Middle Eastern areas or Oriental areas. You know, you get a whole picture and a whole snapshot of this very diverse feel, which I think is great to tie into the concept and really adds a lot of flavor to the album. But like I said, it's a big, sprawling album, and it's taken me some time to really digest it. Upon first listen, I was a bit overwhelmed, wasn't sure how I felt about it as a whole. I was a little bit almost disappointed in the album, to be honest, but as I've listened to it more and more, I've uncovered more hidden depths. I've uncovered some really great gems throughout the track list, and it's become a new favorite, and I've really loved my experience with it. I will admit that through especially the second half, like midway through the second half of the album, I feel like it gets a little bit slower. There's a lot of ballads that come back to back, and they all have basically a similar tempo and a similar style, and it starts to wash all together for me. So that's probably my least favorite part of the album, but there's still beautiful stuff even in that mix. There's still great stuff to behold throughout the whole track list that can really grab your ear and grab your attention. To highlight a few different tracks, to go through every single track would just be a massive undertaking, but I like the beginning, Hope Is, / Drums of Hope, beginning with some atmospheric washes and almost psychedelic style keyboards and some dreamy sounding vocals from Mark Truiak, very world music inspired with chanting background vocals and Middle Eastern sounding instrumentation and African drums. And the last 2.5 minutes of the track is basically just an extended drum solo with these African drum beats that's really cool to listen to. That leads into Love Never Leaves Us, which has some meditative sounds and spoken word before it lands into a more funky groove, almost an 80s style funk vibe with some horns added to give that more funky aesthetic as well. Great vocal melodies and a more laid-back section towards the end with beautiful acoustic guitar and piano interplay. There's a lot of really beautiful vocals as well, great harmonies, great female background vocals, all centered around Mark Truiak and his incredible tone. He sounds like Peter Gabriel in the tone and quality of his voice, but a very lived in, very expressive tone, and I think it fits this music just beautifully. There's a great epic called Being of Equal on the first half of the album. This is probably my favorite track of the whole project. Really has a lot of different variety and different things going on in the mix. Almost oriental soundscapes at the beginning. Things are more ethereal, but things get more energetic as the track goes along with some cool vocal harmonies. You get some great drum beats with lots of world music overtones. Gets into full-blown prog territory with some proggy keyboard flourishes and Hasse Froberg from the Flower Kings coming aboard on vocals for part of it. There's a laid-back section with acoustic guitar and layered vocals. There's this almost Gentle Giant-y type section with xylophone and foreign percussions and layered Gentle Giant-style counterpoint vocals. We get stringed instruments from different cultures and then move into a heavier rocking prog section before we end with a more understated ballad-type feel for the ending. So really cool stuff. On this track. I think that's the centerpiece to me of this whole project, is this epic 20-minute track. And I mentioned Hasse Froberg. There's a whole litany of guests throughout this whole album that I should mention. The main two people of the project are Mark Truiak and Steve Unruh, but we've got Ben Craven, Nick Magnus, Rachel Flowers, Ryo Okamoto, Sean Timms. You got Jean-Pierre Louveton, Steve Hackett, Michael St. Pierre, Colin Edwin, Jonas Reingold. It just reads like a who's who in modern prog, and it's really cool that they all guest and appear on this album, giving more focus to that world music sort of vibe. You get musicians from all over the world contributing their talents to this album, and it just really adds to that concept of this is the earth coming together, trying to save itself. Let's do what we can to do that and to help promote better practices to save our planet, And so there's a lot of cool stuff throughout the second disc as well. We Only Get One Chance is how it begins, with some cool lush strings and vocals and piano. Really great groove. Maybe it goes on a little bit too long for me, but it really settles in a nice place with some swelling strings and a satisfying climax before it relaxes back into that ending section. Fault Line is a cool harder rocker with guitar riffs, slow burning, but has some darker edged moments with some jazzier horns and cool bass work. A slinky, cool, jazzy vibe to that one, which is really interesting. And I think what keeps this album afloat and keeps it from being a little bit too long and boring is that they infuse a lot of different sounds and styles throughout different tracks throughout the album, which really keeps my interest level higher. I really like the last couple tracks here. Hymn of Hope really soars and has this almost epic gospel feel to it with lush arrangements, majestic background vocals, a really beautiful piece with some gorgeous keyboard textures, interesting world music elements in the background, and then Reprise, which is a fun way for them to nod back to even their prior albums and older songs from their catalog and bring those into the forefront, and over a really funky drum beat and cool keyboard work. Really fun groove to this one and a fun way to close out the album. So there's a lot of great tracks interspersed throughout that I didn't even talk about. Islands is a fun classic blues rock type track. Homo Sapien has a bit of a Led Zeppelin stomping style feel to it. You got a lot of cool, really beautiful piano ballads like The Bees in Us. So it's just a really beautiful track listing with a lot of great moments and melodies, great piano work, great guitar work, great vocals, great flute and saxophone flourishes, just all those things with some great violin and strings and orchestration. There's some spoken word sections interspersed throughout, different quotes and clips from different notable figures. There's just a lot on display here and a lot to go through. But the conclusion is that I think there's so much to enjoy here. A little bit overwhelming. Maybe it's a little bit overlong and you can argue, could you cut something here? Could you cut something there? But when the music is this strong and powerful, does it really matter? I'm not sure. I just think it's a really fun listen through, and it just gives you more material to really digest and gives you a chance to spend a lot of time on this album and to really explore its hidden depths. And I think the band even mentions that they know it's an overwhelming listen, that, you know, it's probably going to be hard to sit down for 2 hours straight and listen to the whole thing. So they've allowed for, you can kind of digest it in chunks. There's different sections, you know, album sides, what have you, that you can easily digest the album in more bite-sized pieces. And I think that might be a better way to explore this album, to listen to it in parts and try to get familiarized with each part individually before you really take on the whole concept. So really great album. I wanted to make sure to cover it. I've been stalling a little bit because I knew it was going to be hard to talk about such a sprawling project with so many different elements to it. Hopefully I did it some justice through this review. Thank you guys for joining me. Hopefully you'll go check it out, and I'll hopefully see you guys in a future review. Thank you for your support. See you later. Bye.